Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Navis Nobilite. I am Captain Zelnick, and today on this beautiful June morning, I am going to be giving you guys a little bit of a preview for what's coming in the future for the fan projects of Battlefleet Gothic, because as always, we're constantly at work trying to make new and interesting things. In the future, I am going to be having a interview with another fan creator, Storm Reaper, when we can finally find time in our extraordinarily irritating and busy schedule, when we have a conversation about his Imperial Navy battle fleet known as Battlefleet Caracas. But today, I'm going to give you all a little bit of an Adepticon update. That's right, Adepticon information is coming forward. Now, I told you all that the plan was to have a whole book of new ships and rules that would be tournament legal at Adepticon. This means, of course, that all of the rules have to be grabbed thoroughly by the more experienced members of the community, played into the ground until they get entirely sick of it, and tried to be exposed for as many exploits as we could until we couldn't really find any more that weren't insurmountable. Ultimately, removing all exploits from all fleets is simply impossible. You're going to have situations like the 7 Nova Cannon Dominator fleet or oops, all slaughters moments from pretty much every fleet in the game. All of the old school Tau players know exactly how to make everyone's life a living hell just by bringing nothing but explorers with torpedoes. But of course, our goal is to mitigate that as much as possible and create still a fun, entertaining, and reasonably competitive fleet for everyone to play with. Now, some news about this, because I know a lot of people are on other Battlefleet Gothic servers and maybe part of, at one point, some of the construction and observation of previous works in progress, and I need to share this piece of news with you. Andreas Klenberger, otherwise known as Lascaris, was the project lead for the original Book of the Void 3. Unfortunately, due to the inability of people to finish the work that was part of their responsibility to get Book of the Void 3 completed in any kind of reasonable or rational time, he has decided to hand over effectively the creation and the direction of Book of the Void 3 to me. And the requirements that I had, given the plans that I needed to accomplish in a certain amount of time, have required me to, unfortunately, scrap about 99% of the book. The Eldar fleet is going to have to be moved elsewhere once it is finally completed by its composer. There's way too many problems that exist within the nature of that book. And absolutely nobody has spent any time at all trying to get the Carcharodon into any semblance or form of balance, or even to really give them anything more than a presumptive fleet that really doesn't make sense within the scope of Battlefleet Gothic at this time. I'm not saying these things are not going to come in the future. I want them to, but I can only do so much of the work all at once, and when people dedicate themselves to getting something done and then abruptly don't get anything done, especially not to the quality that's necessary for what I feel is necessary for a Book of the Void, I'm not going to include it. So the first thing that I had to do was I had to, unfortunately, take out the Crystal Towers of Tzeentch. I have the rules for them, but I need maybe about 6 months of testing just to make sure that they're even viable. The rules are so outlandish, but they're funny, but they're very, very strange. So I need way more time to test to get them even remotely done, and then comes the entire problem of convincing a 3D modeler to make a model for the Crystal Tower of Tzeentch, which is about the size of a Ramillies starfort. And not a lot of people are willing to do that kind of work. So, unfortunately, they had to be removed. So I brought in an idea that I had out of probably a moment that was a combination of lack of sleep and abject frustration, because I kept on running into a series of problems with a lot of people who were holding up the most nightmarish and unholy thing of the BFG fan base, which is Chaos-like cruisers constantly wanting Chaos-like cruisers. So I just stopped and thought, okay, you know what? Let's give them what they want, but we have to give it to them in a way that makes sense. Now, much credit to the creators of the Dark Mechanicum list. It's a very interesting list. I think it needs a little bit of editing, but overall, it's still a very fun list. They found a way to that actually, to an extent, Chaos-like cruisers do somewhat exist, though I feel the list desperately, again, it needs rebalancing, but I think it's a great start. And I had to sit here and go, okay, well, we have these, some of these are from the earliest era of Battlefleet Gothic from, maybe, I think some of them appeared originally in some of the BFG magazines. I could be wrong about that. I know that a lot of these things emerged out of the additional ship compendium, both 2.0 and 1.0. Some of them may have emerged out of Warp Rift itself, but nobody's actually kind of brought all of them together to actually give them a character and a flavor and a purpose. Now, the biggest problem with slapping Chaos-like cruisers into a normal Chaos list is that they're really only there for one purpose. It's not to be supplemental or to be a force amplifier, because ultimately no Chaos-like cruiser that has ever been designed is in any way has no actual tactical advantage over the Slaughter. And the Slaughter is the great big problem in the room, because it is such a good cruiser that no light cruiser really has relevance to it. It has so much firepower, it's so fast, it's so good. Why have a Chaos-like cruiser? And the answer is so we can get Grand Cruisers faster, because Chaos Grand Cruisers are excellent, they're fun, they are ridiculously and overwhelmingly powerful, and people want more than one of them in a fleet in 1,500 points. It's that simple. So my mentality became, okay, monkey paw moment, the finger has curled, you get your Chaos-like cruisers, and you get your easier access to Grand Cruisers, but you get nothing else. You don't get battleships, you don't get heavy cruisers, you don't get cruisers, and thus the Penumbral Pirates were formed. Now, the Penumbral Pirates are, for the most part, with a few minor tweaks here and there, done. These have been thoroughly play-tested. They have won plenty and lost plenty. They are a very different feel for a Chaos list. They use all the baseline Chaos rules. And funnily enough, they don't actually have a whole lot of quote-unquote new ships. They have a lot of ships that have kind of floated around in the fan base that have been brought together. So I want to give all credit to those people who created them. Now, there is one ship that I did make, which is, as you can see here, the Brass Idol. Now, the Brass Idol is the center of the fleet. It is the flagship, quote-unquote, and the character ship. And of course, as you can see here, it is a fantastic little ship. And if you want to pause and look at the stats and all the rules that are involved around it, we can. We're going to go over all of these in a moment, but I want to talk first about the lore of the Penumbral Pirates. Now, we have already at our disposal the Pirates and Wolfpack's fleet, and these are meant to represent small bands of, varying levels of power pirate lords that are not really necessarily relevant in the broader scheme. And if you're going to play around with an investment that is as intense as light cruiser, you're going to need support from a higher power. And I came up with this idea because, again, this is chaos. They are all nefarious and evil in some varying level of evil. I had to think of a way that how would a large band of psychotic, crazed lunatics get their hands on light cruisers? How would they convince anybody? And the first thing that I thought of is, well, rationally speaking, they're going to be getting it from the Dark Mechanicum. And why would the Dark Mechanicum give them it? Well, probably because this ravening band of lunatics, were very good at their job. But, of course, the illustrious bands of pirates are ambitious and they want more, and they all want the biggest possible ships they could get their hands on. They want to become Chaos Lords. They want to become renowned across the galaxy as Red Lord pirates, and this ambition is exploitable by the Dark Mechanicum. So the Dark Mechanicum approached the pirates and made them an offer, which is, if you get for us the appropriate amount of soul and loot and carcasses of ships, we will give you bigger, more powerful ships. We're going to take all of your escort squadrons, we will do away with them, and we will replace them with larger, more powerful ships, the light cruisers. And for those who are particularly renowned, and the really good ones, and the really powerful and smart and crazy ones, we will give those vaunted and influential people a grand cruiser to demonstrate their incredible power, because the Dark Mechanicum does have the capacity to still build these. And at the top of all of this, at the apex of the pyramid scheme, they presented to these pirate bands the Brass Idol. The Brass Idol is a construction of purest lethal artwork. It is a vessel that is dedicated to all of the gods. It is literally the battleship of Chaos Undivided, or at least the Grand Cruiser of Chaos Undivided. It is very lethal. It is very powerful for a Grand Cruiser. And it has a bunch of impressive rules, and there's only ever one of them that's only ever held by the most influential, the most powerful, the king, so to speak, of all of the Dread pirates. And of course, predictably, since it is a pyramid scheme, the only way to get somebody out of the Brass Idol is if they die. And this is Chaos, so of course the Brass Idol passes hands all the time. Sometimes it simply goes back to the Dark Mechanicus for them to either fix because it got into a battle that it got damaged in, or because, they had to make sure that one pirate didn't get too powerful. Make no mistake, everybody, the Dark Mechanicum is not doing this out of the kindness of their hearts. They want the loot, and they want the souls, and they want the loyalty of the Penumbral pirates. They do not want them to actually become a galaxy-wide threat. It's one of those parasitic interactions between two separate Chaos factions. But this all roils around a narrative that brings forward what is called the Dropnir War, which is the title of the new Book of the Void 3. It is a Imperial versus Chaos list, which I'm sure will make a lot of Imperial players very happy, because, in all honesty, ever since Book of the Void 2 and Battlefleet Helion, we have really not seen a imperialist. People tend to focus on the other more esoteric fleets. The last one I made before Battlefleet Dropnir was the Sisters of Battle, and they're not, again, they're imperial, but they're imperial with a coating of fleur-de-lis. So, but in another video in the future, I will go over the details of Battlefleet Dropnir as they stand. They need more playtesting, but they're in a very, very good place right now. They have a very different feel than any other Imperial Navy. I'm trying to, with that fleet, actually do for an Imperial Navy what Baka failed to do, which is to make an Imperial Navy fleet with a unique feel, with a unique playstyle, with unique ships, with effectively make it so you are very clearly playing the Imperial Navy, but the ships are not like anything you have seen before. But regardless, let's move on to the Penumbral Pirates. Now, as you can see here, we have the stat block for the Brass Idol. Now, the top stat block is a slightly advanced version of the Grand Cruiser Standard. It is faster than your typical Grand Cruiser at 25 centimeters. It turns as 45, 3 shields, 5 armor, 4 turrets. Obviously, put this on a large base. It's a 10-hit ship and a 3 shield ship. Armament, As you can see, we are horribly violating the standard rules of Grand Cruisers because I did, in my mind, have this ship to be placed upon the Imperial style because it's more opulent than the Repulsive. But if you want to model this after the Repulsive, by all means. But it has a strength 6 prow torpedo tube out the front arc. It has 3 dorsal lances at 45, front, left, right, port and starboard weapon batteries, strength 10, left and right, and port and starboard launch bays, left and right. The special rules: the grandest of prizes. When used in a campaign and destroyed during battle by another Chaos faction, this ship transfers ownership to the winning player of the battle. That's right, even a normal Chaos fleet can somehow end up with this thing in their roster. Be careful how you use that ship. You may find yourself constantly trying to hunt the damn thing down in order to get your hands on it. Chariot of Piracy. This vessel is renowned for its overzealous crew and bloodthirsty attitude towards capturing enemy ships. During offensive boarding actions, this vessel gains an additional +1, so they have, in effect, the standard rules for Space Marines. Idol of Chaos Undivided. This vessel may not take any mark of chaos. This vessel may reroll any critical hit it causes, including hit and run attacks from teleport attacks or dread claws. The second roll stands. This is kind of a modification of the mark of Chaos Undivided. This is really the true power of this vessel. The ability to, when it causes a crit, and you roll that the universal rolling of a starboard, you can be like, no, the Chaos Gods don't like you. I re-roll that. It is a powerful effect, and it makes its Dread Claws far stronger. Banner of the Gods Undefeated. The brass idol may not disengage unless it is the very last ship remaining on the owning player's side. If forced to, a vessel counts as being destroyed. The Chaos Gods do not want you to basically be a coward, because remember, Khorne is involved here, and he doesn't want his precious brass idol, even if it is technically owned by the other gods too, to leave. And neither do any of the other gods. Oh, sure, the other gods recognize the value of discretion when you're outnumbered, but remember that this was made by the Dark Mechanicum, and they do not want this thing to stay in the hands of one person, and the bindings of the demons inside of this ship are expressly to that end. So if you want to field this incredibly powerful ship, you best make sure it survives, because otherwise you're not going to be able to disengage it. So you have to keep it on the board. These all balancing factors give a points value of roughly 325. That makes it the most expensive Grand Cruiser currently in existence. Now, moving on to your 4 options for light cruisers. Now, these are pretty standard across the board. You can find these rules in the additional ships compendium. They're also in the Dark Mechanicum list with some modifications, but these are pretty standard. You can find these rules in some way, shape, or form. These vessels are all deliberately cheap, but they are cheap, they are lethal, and they are vulnerable. They are very easy to destroy. I mean, when you look at them and you go, wow, these things actually have a ridiculous amount of firepower at good range, you need to remember that they have exactly 1 turret, and they have exactly 1 shield, and they have 5 up armor. Anybody who plays with a Dauntless will know that that does not give you any form of defense. So even if a ship looks like it's a bulwark of incredible firepower, all it takes is a single round of dedicated fire, and your light cruisers begin blowing up like crazy. So we're starting with the Fanatic. So we are establishing here the Chaos Light Cruiser Standard, which is a 6-hit cruiser, 30 centimeter speed, 90-degree turns, 1 shield, 5 up armor, and a single turret. This is pretty universal across all of the light cruisers. Now, this thing is basically what happens when you grab a murder and cut it in half. It has a Prow Lance battery at strength 2 at the front at 45. Port and starboard strength 6 weapon batteries at 45. Now, all but one of the light cruisers can go an additional 1d6 when on all ahead full, just like the Slaughter. The Schismatic. Now, a lot of people will balk at this, but the Schismatic is not as horrible as you may think. It is a very good light cruiser, but it is It is again. You will balk at the power until you use them and you realize how fragile they are. It is again standard stat block, but the interesting thing about this is that it has a proud torpedo launcher that fires front, left, right. Now I was skeptical about this. I didn't invent this, but when I used it, it is a punchy little escort, and it has a starboard and port lance battery at strength 2. That torpedo launcher, when you put these guys in a squadron, can be quite lethal, but it's only strength 4, and the ship is particularly vulnerable. Again, they die very easy. The Heretic, at 120 points, here's your discount ship. It has a strength 6 front, left, right, weapons battery, a starboard strength 6, and a port strength 6. So with a maximum firepower of 12 out the side for a discounted price of 120 points. And again, plus 1d6. Now remember, these ships are going to be coming in squadron, because these are your only vessels. Independent, these guys could probably do pretty well independently, but there are rules in the fleet list that are going to be pushing you to put them into squadrons, and we'll explain that in a moment. Okay, now this is the one that usually makes a lot of people's eyes bug out, because the Hellbringer, again, I didn't make this rule. I had to tone down these rules. At 145 points, same stat block, 1 shield, 1 turret, as a prow bombardment cannon out the front, a dorsal weapons battery at strength 4, front, left, right, port and starboard launch bays at strength 1. And the special rules. Hellbringers are designed for rapid planetary assaults and generate 2 assault points with landing troops instead of 1. They are also filled with the fiercest and most bloody of crews, designed to spread terror and mayhem wherever they go. In boarding actions, the Hellbringer gains an additional +1 to boarding, so they count as having Space Marines in boarding actions, just because they are just filled to the gills with psychos. A lot of people look at this and go, holy crap, that's 145 points for a bombardment cannon. Then you realize you have none of the benefits. Yeah, people go, oh, this is basically a discounted strike cruiser. And yes, in many ways it is. But the downside is strike cruisers have 6 up armor and 2 shields, or up to 2 shields. This has 5 up armor and 1 shield. Yeah, it's got a lot of firepower on this vessel in the front. Also, yeah, the prow bombardment cannon only fires out the front. But I got to express this to all of you. This thing is incredibly vulnerable to everything. Yes, this is going to be your standardized cruiser carrier below the Grand Cruiser scale. So, but you're also heavily motivated to move in and board with it. This is an aggressive ship. And I have had so many Hellbringers die horribly just from a wave of 4 bombers that caused an explosion chain reaction down the line. They are very powerful, but like all Chaos-like cruisers, they are very vulnerable. Now, we are going to move into the fleet rules. Penumbral pirates are Chaos worshippers, so they get the +1, fleet rating of 3. We get into the details of the different kinds of command. I will talk about that below. Chaos Space Marines are very rare in this fleet. Pirate lords may purchase Space Marines, but importantly, aspiring commanders cannot. Well, let's get into the fleet list. Okay. Oh, any other important rules here? That's in a campaign. Get additional round for every Hulk they claim at the end of battle. If there are no Hulks, they suffer -1 renown. Individual initiative. All marks of chaos are. This is very important. All marks of chaos are attached to the pirate lord or aspiring commander. Supposed to be aspiring commander. Hold on. I'll edit it in real time. Oh, I can't on this browser. Just remember that's aspiring commander, and not the ship. Should the vessel be destroyed or its bridge smashed, the effects of the mark cease. Now, this may seem minor, but this is actually a pretty hefty reduction in power for all of the marks of chaos. If you just remove the guy in charge, that's going to take away. That's basically going to burn points away. Basically burn them away just like your rerolls if you lost your commander, placing far more emphasis on the importance of keeping your commanders alive. Now, you have 2 commanders. You have Pirate Lords for 25 points to convey a +1 leadership. For every Grand Cruiser, a Pirate Lord must be purchased to command it. So if you have a Grand Cruiser of any variety, you must have a Pirate Lord. He may purchase a single Mark of Chaos and purchase Space Marines for 35 points. Only 1 mark is permitted per ship. The other form of commander is the aspiring commander, a full squadron of light cruisers, 4 ships, may purchase an aspiring commander to lead them. His leadership is standard at 8. He may purchase a single Mark of Chaos that spreads to every ship in the squadron. Should this assigned vessel be destroyed or the bridge smashed, the effects of the mark cease across the squadron. Now, again, people are going to go, holy crap, that means that squadron can have 4 Marks of Tzeentch. That's 4 rerolls. Holy crap. Or that entire squadron has +1 health from the Mark of Nurgle. Wow. And you only pay for it once. That's ridiculous. Or the Mark of Khorne, the entire squadron has, double boarding value. Yeah. Or, Mark of Slaanesh, it creates this massive zone of -2 LD. Yeah. But if you kill the one ship that has the commander on it, it all goes away. And that means the benefits evaporate. And again, I must express this. Even if you take the Mark of Nurgle, these ships are fragile. It is very easy to kill them. And when you think about it, the individual Marks of Chaos don't do a huge amount to keep the ships alive, with the exception of the Mark of Nurgle. Yes, you will have a squadron that will very likely pass its leadership all the time. Yeah, if you board with 4 light cruisers with the Mark of Khorne, oh yeah, it's going to hurt. The Mark of Slaanesh, any vessel within 15 centimeters, -2. It's a huge zone, and these are very fast. But these ships can't survive very well within close quarters of larger ships. So you have to be very careful. And trust me when I say this has been play tested thoroughly. It works fine. Also, the player has to say is which ship has the aspiring commander on it, and he can focus fire on that, even if with all sorts of different ways, like torpedo bombers, fighters. These ships are all vulnerable to bombers. These vessels, this rule is powerful, but does it break the game? Absolutely not. All right, the actual fleet itself. The Brass Idol itself may be taken in fleets above 1,000 points. You may take only one of them. Brass Idol. First, remember, Brass Idol is Brass Idol itself is a Grand Cruiser. You must take a Pirate Lord to command it. Grand Cruiser. 1 Grand Cruiser may be taken for every 3 light cruisers taken. And as you can see, all of the Grand Cruisers are available to this fleet. The Avenger, the Repulsive, the Vengeance, the Retaliator, the Executor, or Executor, whatever, or Exorcist. They are all available. They all have different benefits and different negatives to a fleet. Just recognize that, when it comes to the Exorcist, one little thing that has to be added in is that when it comes to differences in names of ordnance, for example, the Exorcist can take Shark Assault Boats. The name will change depending on the faction. You will have Dreadclaws in the Exorcist. All right, light cruisers, you can take any number of them. Carrier options, and you can take any number of escort squadrons as well. Now, the rule of reserve. No vessels from this fleet may be taken as reserves in any other fleet. This fleet cannot take reserves from any other Chaos faction. The rules for captured Trader Imperial vessels do not apply to this fleet. This fleet may take I'm going to have to remove the Crystal Tower of Tzeentch because it's very silly. And there are rules for campaign. These have to be tested still. That's really all that's left when it comes to this fleet. But if anyone wants to take an opportunity to play test these, you can go back and have a look at all the rules in the video and make some 1,500 point fleets and throw them against different factions. We believe firmly that this fleet is balanced and ready to go with a few minor edits and tweaks, and it will be put into a nice book ready for Adepticon next year. But that's the Penumbral Pirates. In my opinion, and of course I'm the creator of this fleet list, it feels like when you play this you have 2 separate fleets working in tandem. You have the Grand Cruisers functioning like extraordinarily haughty and self-absorbed lunatics in the back row, letting the rabble do all the damage, while you come in later and take all the glory. I've had other players play them and use them as a giant bum rush list to great and sometimes very poor effect. If I would say what the great weaknesses of this fleet are, Nova Cannons. One well-placed Nova Cannon into a squadron of these guys can take out 2 light cruisers, which is screamingly funny when it happens. So you have to be careful when you are playing these ships and not just bunch them up because they're even bunched up together, they can be quite vulnerable. But the firepower that you can muster is crazy with these ships, and it makes it a lot of fun to play. Anyway, that was the preview for Book of the Void 3. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all again in the next video.